open session at 6:40 p.m. Could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Wright.
Present.
Councilmember Espinoza. Here. Councilmember Beer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Bowles.
Here.
Mayor Beckmeyer.
Present. In case anyone needs to place a parking pass on their dashboard, if you're parked in the spots that are along the fence, you should probably go do that. But there isn't a huge crowd here tonight, so I think we're probably fine. I will read the land acknowledgement. The City of Pacifica acknowledges that we occupy the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We honor the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples for their enduring commitment to Mother Earth. As the indigenous protectors of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush Ohlone have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place, as well as for all peoples who reside in their traditional territory. We affirm their sovereign rights as First Peoples and wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. And I would like to invite Councilmember Espinoza to lead us in a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Assistant City Attorney Bizzano, do we have a partial closed session report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The council has not completed the closed session agenda, and so we adjourned the closed session that commenced at 5 p.m. until after the meeting, the regular meeting that we are having right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Tonight, we have two special presentations, one for Domestic Violence Awareness Month, October 2025, and the other is a proclamation for Fire Prevention Week, October 5 through 11, 2025. I have Lynn Schutte. Hi, Lynn, there you are, behind the monitor. Hello, welcome. Lynn Schutte is here from CORA, Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. Thank you for being here.
Could you help remove the monitor?
Chris Redfield,
Please? Thank you.
the monitor, can you help? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, all right.
Fantastic. Now we can see. Wonderful. Thank you for your patience.
No worries.
This is a proclamation of the City of Pacifica in recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas more than 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and 1 in 2 transgender individuals experience some form of physical or sexual violence and or stalking by their intimate partner in their lifetime. And whereas the marginalization of certain groups in society, including undocumented individuals, transgender individuals, and people living with disabilities, increases their vulnerability to domestic violence. And whereas Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse, CORA staff provided more than 10,000 critical services in the past year, ensuring survivors have access to safety, advocacy, and healing. And whereas CORA provided over $1 million worth of client cash assistance, including subsidized rent, security deposits, and a range of emergency expenses from car repairs to storage costs. And whereas in San Mateo County, 121 adults and children were provided emergency shelter, including stays in safe houses and motels, and 144 adults and children were provided longer-term rental assistance to escape their abusers last year. And whereas 606 adults and children received therapy to help them with domestic violence-related trauma, and Cora fielded 2,092 requests for legal assistance. And whereas the City of Pacifica recognizes the critical need for county-wide services in order to support our residents, and whereas intimate partner violence continues to be among the most underreported crimes in San Mateo County, and San Mateo County is committed to eliminating all forms of intimate partner abuse. Now, therefore, I, Sue Beckmeyer, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Pacifica and all its citizens, do hereby proclaim October 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to raise awareness about and encourage all residents of San Mateo County to do their part to help rid our community of intimate partner violence, done this 22nd day of September 2025. Lynn, thank you for being here with us. And I wanted to give you the floor if you would like to make any comments.
Well, thank you so much for inviting us and for providing the proclamation. I consider this a great opportunity as a fellow Pacifican to let our fellow residents know that we are there for them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you have a pen handy, anybody who's listening, I'm going to give you the phone number very shortly. We provide free of charge everything from hotline to housing. So that includes even legal services. It includes the mental health services that you talked about, groups and individual in the office as well as virtual. We also provide a fair amount of prevention in the community. So we're working with the little ones in the schools. We're working with our local libraries in doing fun family engagement activities to set the temperature at the right place so that families know a variety of ways to be very positive with each other. We also do education with adults. We partnered with the Pacifica, City of Pacifica on Speak Up, and that a lot of our local companies participated in that and learned how to help and what not to say. And so we thank you for that. And I think a lot of you are seeing the notices in local businesses that say they participated. So for people who are at home and listening, and you think you might have a concern, call us anytime, any day, 1-800-300-1080. So I'll say it one more time, 1-800-300-1080. You don't need to suffer by yourself. You can call us and let us know what's going on, and we could help you assess. And nobody's going to tell you what to do, and we can even help you do a safety plan. So that's what we're here for, and we're really glad to be able to have this moment to tell all Pacificans, please reach out if you need help. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Council members, do you have any comments or questions? Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's good to see you. Thank you for being here with us. I think it was my natural inclination just to like pick up my phone when she started reading, because as a survivor, it is hard to hear and hard to remember. And I'm so thankful that there are agencies like Cora that can give people the help that they need, the dignity that they deserve, right? And the life that they deserve. There was a horrible domestic violence-related murder in my neighborhood not too long ago, and it was awful. It was a shock to the system of our community. So we are forever grateful for Cora. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Lynn. And I remember getting to tour your facilities a few years ago as part of the Council of Cities dinner, and was really just amazed at all the work that you do, and what a friendly little oasis of a space that you have for people to come, for their children to have a little play area, right, while the parent might be in discussion and trying to make a plan. I was a child in a family with abuse. I'm just curious if children are allowed to call too, right? You've said anyone can call, and right. So yeah, don't be shy, kids. Don't. These things happen in our homes, and they don't need to. And there's education and resources out there for them. And I know you work so closely with our police. Maybe you want to say a little bit to that too. I know that there's just a wonderful partnership where the resources are brought, and you're called in when there's even a hint, right, that someone could use some help. And and that's really what it takes to be there and see a situation developing and be able to intervene. And so I just want to thank you both for that.
As a survivor myself, I also want to reach out and say thank you. I too, Mary, can kind of, when this subject comes up, kind of glaze over my attention. My forgetter tries to work better than my rememberer. And I think it's important for these things to be brought forward. In fact, I had to fly back east to have a deposition next month to try to address some past injustices that were inflicted upon me. And one thing that came to mind when you gave the phone number, is that a 24-hour phone number?
It is
As well?
24 hours a day, every day, even holidays.
And that number, just to make sure I wrote it down correctly, was 800-300-1080. Is that correct?
It is.
Well, I want to thank you so much for what you're doing. Please keep up the good work. And when we give you your diploma, I give you my card. I'd love to have an opportunity to talk some more with you.
Thank you.
I saw you moving your mic. Did you have something to say?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Most of us have been through domestic violence. Like in the Latino community, it is very, I never saw anything, but I have seen my older sister with brown eyes. And it's something that a lot of people feel like they have to stay or is acceptable. And I'm a very feisty woman, so I won't let anybody to do anything to me. I'll be like, oof, you don't know who you're getting. You're gonna get in trouble. So, but it's something that I saw in my family. But I don't, even though I saw that in my family, I will never let anything like that to happen to me. It will be a fight instead. So, and I do appreciate, do you have anybody who speaks Spanish?
We do. And we also have a language line, so if somebody was to call speaking something even not Spanish or English, we are able to use that language line to communicate with anybody. We had somebody speak Uzbeki last week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to you for the way in which the thoughtfulness of the planning of the resources and how the success and the awareness across the county among the city councils, among county, among our citizens, each iteration and each new thing that you bring forward just enhances the resources as they're available. I'm so grateful for the program that you put together after the murder in San Carlos.
Yes.
And that helped a number of groups in our city really recognize their own experiences and come forward with contributions. So I would like also to check in with you about that because I realize it's not a one and done and the need will be ongoing. So we want to figure out how we keep that, that awareness happening.
That would be great.
Thank you very much for all that you do.
Thank you.
And we have the opportunity to take a photo if you would like. Okay,
That would be
thank
great.
you. right. And we have a proclamation in recognition of Fire Prevention Week, October 5 through 11, 2025. Hi. Chief Whitner's here. Acting Deputy Fire Chief, North County Fire Authority, Whitner, is here. Let me read the whole line all the way through. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your patience this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a proclamation of the City of Pacifica in recognition of Fire Prevention Week, October 5th through 11th, 2025. Whereas the City of Pacifica and the North County Fire Authority are committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Pacifica. And whereas fire remains a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and the presence of lithium-ion batteries in many household devices introduces unique fire risks. And whereas most of the electronics used in homes daily, including smartphones, tablets, laptops, power tools, e-bikes, e-scooters, and toys, are powered by lithium-ion batteries, which, if misused, damaged, or improperly charged, can overheat, start a fire, or explode. And whereas the National Fire Protection Association reports an increase in battery-related fires, underscoring the need for public education on the safe use of lithium-ion batteries. And whereas residents should observe 3 key calls to action. Purchase only UL-listed products. Charge batteries safely and recycle them responsibly to prevent battery-related fires. And whereas lithium-ion batteries store a large amount of energy in a small space, and improper use, such as overcharging, using off-brand chargers without safety certification, or exposing batteries to damage can result in fire or explosion. And whereas the proper disposal and recycling of lithium-ion batteries helps prevent environmental hazards and reduce fire risks in the home and in the community. Whereas Pacifica's first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of fires through prevention, safety education, and community outreach. And whereas the 2025 Fire Prevention Week theme, Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium-Ion Batteries in Your Home, serves to remind us of the importance of using, charging, and recycling lithium-ion batteries safely to reduce the risk of fires in homes and communities. Now, therefore, I, Sue Beckmeyer, on behalf of the City Council of the City of Pacifica and all its citizens, do hereby proclaim October 5th through 11th, 2025, as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city. And I urge all the people of Pacifica to be aware of their surroundings, respond when smoke alarms sound by exiting the building immediately, look for available ways out in the event of a fire or other emergency, and support the many public safety activities and efforts of the North County Fire Authority and Emergency Services during Fire Prevention Week 2025, done this 22nd day of September 2025. And I would invite you to make any statements that you may have.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate it. Madam Mayor, Honorable City Council, first I'd like to apologize for my informal appearance tonight. My dress uniform is in for alterations. So charge into safety. So this year's theme obviously is lithium-ion batteries. They're in literally everything that we live with and around these days. You know, we put a man on the moon the year that I was born, but even today we still can't seem to make batteries that last long enough and that don't catch fire. So people need to realize that batteries can be hazardous, and for specific questions, any given time, reach out to your local fire department, and of course, North County Fire Authority online, or give us a call anytime. I'd also like to mention we're going to be at, of course, the upcoming Fog Fest, talking about battery safety as well as other risk reduction materials. And then, of course, we have Fire Prevention Week. We'll be doing 2 weeks worth of school visits, concluding with North County Fire Authority Open House Fire Service Day on Saturday, October 11th from 10 to 2. And locally, that'll be at Lindemar Fire Station 72. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Council members, questions or comments?
I have both.
Of course, please. Go ahead, Councilmember Wright.
I was over visiting my mom in the East Bay the other day, and I saw a hybrid car on one of those fast chargers, and it was on fire. Made me think of you guys, made me think of the potential toxic fumes that you face as a result of dealing with those. And I was wondering if you're of the opinion that there's sufficient warning labels on what can be charged on those things. Is there anything we as a council can do better to help with changing codes to make it safer out there so we have less of those kind of accidents? And I wanted to thank you for all the work you and your team have done to keep us all safe from fire, in addition to the other things you do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You're more than welcome. I would just say my response to electric vehicles is we're going to be relying on technology to change in the future. You know, batteries make leaps forward, sometimes all too slow, but there is technology coming. The articles that I've read and the classes that I've taken, Tesla is at the forefront of better battery technology. Currently, we have no choice but to combat the types of fires that you just spoke of with the equipment that we have. We have personal protective equipment. We train regularly, particularly when new technology comes out. We have the latest, greatest tools. But I think what it's going to come down to is better technology to make it safer. But legislation is always changing. As a matter of fact, with this new code cycle is additional training on legislation, or excuse me, regulations concerning battery safety. But it's going to take a while before we get a battery that we would all consider acceptable.
Well, thank you for your service, and thank you for continuing to risk your lives on my behalf.
Our pleasure, sir.
Thank you so much for everything. I feel like I learned so much just from the resolution. And yeah, I really appreciate that. And that's what this is about, right? So our community can learn new things and new ways to be safe. So thanks for everything.
You're welcome, ma'am.
I was going to say the same thing, and I have a few follow-up questions. Like, I know when you get on a plane and they always ask you, do you have any lithium-ion batteries in your suitcase? What happens on a plane if you're, in the baggage compartment?
Well, I don't work for an airlines, ma'am, and I'm a passenger like the rest of us. However, what I've come to learn is you can get on the plane and you can use your devices to a certain extent in airplane mode, but they want those devices to be in our presence. We want them to be in our immediate surroundings, so if they do fail, we can act accordingly.
Gotcha.
Versus in a concealed bag, maybe in a compartment where it can get out of control unnoticed.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm one who leaves my laptop plugged in all the time, and I do notice it getting hot, but I'm hearing that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, no, each manufacturer has relatively the same type of safety instructions, but it is something that goes all too often ignored. I'm guilty of it too, but because of what I do for a living, I'm very aware of it. So trust me, my wife and daughters know a little bit more about batteries than your average person, but I would definitely look at the safety instructions and also go to our website, and other available information on the web is pretty good information for us as end users.
Okay, and then just one more question. So I had an electrical fire in a car once, and my dad just threw water on it. I don't think you want to do that, right?
Well, we've been doing that for generations because we have a self-contained electrical system in our vehicles, as well as our household and otherwise. But it's the electric vehicles that are different technology, different from the electrical system that's in your average passenger automobile. And yes, you can put copious amounts of water on it.
Okay, and on your lithium batteries too?
No, those are a little bit different. I mean, you can certainly, what we end up doing, folks, is we end up protecting the exposures. We try to put the fire out, but in many cases, there is no extinguishing that until it burns itself out, which can be a long duration.
Okay, thank you so much
welcome.
for all you do to educate us tonight, but all the time, and keeping us safe. Really appreciate you being here.
Our pleasure, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I just learned something new today. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And thank you for the work with the schools and the open house. That's always so much fun at Lindemar. I know it's really well attended and it's a fun day. So I think that kind of heightening awareness is very helpful. So thank you very much
You're
for that
welcome.
work. Did we want to do a photo?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's do it.
Could you say that website that you mentioned?
Yeah, so northcountyfire.gov, that's our website.
That was northcountyfire.gov, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But also the National Fire Protection Association, which is NFPA, they have a ton of information on batteries, too.
Great.
Thank you.
All right, so being I neglected to offer the opportunity to the those attending the meeting here now and also online, if anyone has public comment on either of our special proclamations or special commemorations, I'd love to hear it. I do have one card, but it's not on that topic. I'm not seeing anyone moving forward. Emily, do you have anyone on the phone with their hand raised?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We'll close public comment and bring it back. And that, council members, brings us to our consent calendar process. Tonight, there are 4 items on the consent calendar. And so I would like to know if any council members would like to pull any items from consent. No. All right, very well. I would like to open public comment on items on consent. So if you could please state which item it is that you're speaking on, and we'll have comments from anyone in the audience or online. And my public comment is not on that, on consent. Anyone? Assistant City Clerk, do we have anyone on the phone who seems to be raising their hand for that?
There are no raised hands.
Okay, coming back to the council then. Any questions on any items? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
The motion to approve the consent calendar made by Vice Mayor Bowles and seconded by Councilmember Wright. The vote passes unanimously.
All right. So, council, before we move on to public comments on items not on the posted agenda, I did want to ask if it's okay with you if we do a slight amendment to our agenda. As you know, we have moved our council communications. Usually, we've been doing it at the end of the meeting. So we have one consideration item tonight, and then we have our council communications and our staff communications. I would like to offer the opportunity for staff communications after public comment on items not on the posted agenda, but before our consideration item.
I agree.
Is that all right? Very well.
And also,
Do we have to vote on that, City Attorney? As long as we all agree, is it okay? All right, very well.
and before we move on again, can we close the meeting in honor of Nani Wilson tonight? Thank you so much.
Of course. And do you want to speak? Yeah. Okay, very well. Okay, thank you. All right, items. Public comments on items not on the posted agenda. Anyone who wishes to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda, you would complete a yellow card. I have one at this point. Please remember to stay on topics related to the jurisdiction and the work of the City of Pacifica. Do we have any raised hands online right now? Assistant City Clerk?
No.
Okay, we'll check back in with you in a minute. Right now, I do have one card from Joaquin Jimenez.
Hello. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. My name is Joaquin Jimenez. And about 5 weeks ago, I was here to talk about Vaquero Days, and I made an invitation to the city of Pacifica to our celebration, our second year celebration of Vaquero Days. And I want to say thank you. Sarah, who actually came to join us with her husband, had a great time, loved it. There were other, we had people coming all the way from Fresno to our celebration. We did a debriefing with the city of Half Moon Bay, and I want to share with you that they offer about 5 acres of the property of the city of Half Moon Bay to do an event 2026. So you're familiar with the Johnson House in Half Moon Bay. So the area surrounding the Johnson House, that's going to be the location for our celebration August 15th, 2026. This is a tradition that we want to keep in our community. I know the coastal community, I know Pacifica, that we have several boarding places and a lot of horse owners and horse lovers, just like we do in Montera, Moss Beach, Half Moon Bay, Granada, Pescadero, San Gregorio, La Honda, and many other places south of San Mateo County. In the Central Valley, I was in the Central Valley this week in Stevenson, for an event. And many of the people that were at that event, they were in Half Moon Bay for the Vaquero Days. We talked about, the weather. That day it was coastal weather, a bit of rain. It just felt really good, but it was not cold at all. Everybody had a great time. The music. We had 2 live bands playing from 11 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. We have food available early. We had tamales, homemade tamales, and then we had a taquero that came in later. We had several vendors. So please, let's continue this tradition in the coast. And Pacifica, we are part of the coast side, and we want you to be part of our celebration of Vaquero Days. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, can you tell again the date? Because I didn't write it.
Yes, it's August 15th, 2026. So our plan is to have it always in the middle of August.
Always in the middle of August.
Second or third week of August.
Okay.
By tradition, Vaquero Days is a celebration that's been celebrated on the southwest of the United States. So the other cities, they start celebrating in July. But most, like Santa Barbara, they did it August 1st.
I see.
Santa Cruz, they had an event on the same day we did. But theirs is more like a fair, us, we ride the horses, a coastal trail to the beach, and then into town with live music. Then we do a parade, from downtown Half Moon Bay, McDutra Plaza to the Higgins Canyon Road. That's where the event, took place. And 2026, our plan is actually to invite more community members, and we're gonna do another full-on parade, inviting some other local ranchers and farmers. They're bringing in their old tractors, exactly.
I got it.
So and vendors, because of the site that we did the event this year, it's limited parking. So we didn't do a lot of marketing. 2026, we have about 5 acres. We have a lot more parking.
Fiesta.
Fiesta,
So, as the planning goes forward, you've already are in touch with our city clerk, of course. If you can give us a save the date, give us the information so we can make sure to post it through our city e-newsletter and things like that.
Will do. And City of Half Moon Bay is also going to be one of the sponsors. We had during the meeting, we talked about the positive economic impact of having an event like Vaquero Days in our community. So we are looking forward to it. A lot of people are coming forward already, different businesses, to be a sponsor of this event. And looking forward to having Pacifica, being also, a sponsor to this event. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Any further public comment? Assistant City Clerk, do you have any hands raised?
No.
All right. Then we will close public comment and bring it back to the council and to our staff, to our city manager. And I would like to acknowledge the news that we had circulating at the end of last week about our city manager's forthcoming retirement, which is not tomorrow. There's a little bit of time. I know. Can you please pass the Kleenex back to the back of the room? Here. But I did want to give our city manager an opportunity to share the news himself and to let us know not why you're leaving, but what you're looking forward to.
Thank you for that, Mayor Beckmeyer, Vice Mayor Bowles, and council members. Can I first actually do a couple communications? Because
Kevin.
There are a couple. Last week was filled with some announcements, and as I wrote in the Connect with Pacifica introduction, I did want to announce that on Friday, the California Housing Community Development Department certified our housing element, so that is really great news. And I did want to mention that. I also did want to mention that we had an incredible opportunity on Tuesday, and Vice Mayor Bowles was interviewed, and the mayor and I, and we spent the whole day filming a promotional video through ICMA TV about Pacifica. So in coming weeks, we'll look forward to finalizing that video and seeing that, and I may have mentioned that before in communications, but that went extremely well. It also featured merchants from West Sharp Park and Rockaway. It featured Planning Commission Chair Samantha Hauser, and it featured the Pacific Beach Coalition and an interview with Lynn Adams. So there's a lot there, and we get to keep all the B-roll footage for it, as well as we own the video, so we can use it however we want for years to come in Pacifica. And then I would be remiss if I just didn't announce right now that, and a reminder, and council will probably mention this later, that FogFest is this weekend, obviously, but I want to really give a shout out. PBNR's Family Fun Fest is always happening in parallel. It's going to be fantastic. And the city booth is going to be great this year too, with some games and giveaways. And so please, if you're out at FogFest, please do stop by the city booth, and I'll be out there for probably a day and a half of FogFest this year as well. So excited to share those communications. The news that I had provided, and the press release is on the city's website for those that hadn't seen it, was to announce my intention to retire from being city manager in Pacifica, from being actually a city manager. And that's going to be effective March 11th of 2026, so 6-month notice. What I'm really excited about is while I'm, by that time it'll have been 8.5 years that I've been with the city, being appointed in October of 2017, really proud of incredible accomplishments over that time, that in partnership with the council and all the committees and commissions and the incredible city staff and the community, really a lot of great things have happened over that period of time. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I'm really looking forward to the work we have yet to come over the next 6 months with me, but then beyond as well. So there's really, Pacifica's at a great point right now, really looking forward to the great work to come for Pacifica as well. And I will be, on a personal and professional level, I'll still be involved with the council manager form of government and the city manager profession, as I'll be president, voluntary role president of the California affiliate of the International City County Management Association next year. So I will be around at all of the conferences, coaching, writing, doing lots of things involved with the profession. So I certainly won't be a stranger. I just won't be sitting in this seat come that 6 months from now. So thank you very much for that opportunity to state that.
Well, thank you. I know Councilmember Wright, you had asked about making a comment.
I would love to, but I did
wanna
notice she put on her light first.
Oh, how polite.
Wow. Oh, well, I'm going to say all the things to you, Kevin, later, because there's so many things to say, except for that it's been a blessing serving my whole entire elected time with you. So thank you. Also, I'd like to make a suggestion that we create an ad hoc committee to, let's see, I'll read it actually, to look into the available executive search firms for recruiting city managers.
Yeah, thank you. With the council's concurrence, we can make sure to agendize that for the council to officially appoint that
Yeah, for the mayor.
committee.
Mayor and vice mayor would be my suggestion.
Appreciate that, thank you. I think, yes, getting that, we want to make good use of the time while we can, while you're here. Greg, your turn.
Kevin, it really has been a pleasure since I started being involved with the city. A few small little hurdles have been leaped over. Starting with while I was on Planning Commission, of course, the general plan, the Sharp Park specific plan, the local coastal land use plan, most recently the housing element. These aren't small little speed bumps. These are huge undertakings. And, in the short time that I've done it, I've seen these huge lifts happen. I'm surprised your biceps aren't bigger. I'm ashamed to say that you wouldn't be able to, in a public format, quote me on what my reaction was to you when I heard the news.
Mine either.
But you will be missed, and you have done a great service for this city, and I do not look forward to the day that you are no longer occupying that seat. Thank you so much for your dedication, your service, your emails on Sunday nights. So much. Thank you.
I'm going to suggest that we have another ad hoc committee to throw a party. And that it not be the mayor and vice mayor.
I think that's, I like that.
We have some council members that are the fun planners. And yeah, like Mary, I think we'll have a chance to think through and say more later. But I just really, you sat us all down one-on-one, and I was shocked. I think maybe others were too. I hadn't really seen that coming. But obviously, it's you have been here for a long time, and the averages of how long a city manager sits in a city, and maybe you've exceeded that. But I don't know. We don't think about things that way. I think we think about the work that we're doing and the accomplishments and getting through the next thing, the next big thing. And I think Pacifica is in a better place now, absolutely, than when you came. A lot of this important work, a general plan. My goodness, I can't believe we survived that long with something so old, right? And so the building blocks are there. And I really appreciate how professional you are and like giving us this much notice, right? That it's a lot to have to work through. The holidays are in the midst of that too, and just giving us time to make sure that we're ready for the next person and that they're prepared, and because the work will continue. But thank you, and yeah, I've learned a lot from you, and we'll talk more personally later, but thanks, Kevin.
Kevin, I know. So I got the opportunity to talk to you every week, and thank you for supporting me in doing the updates for the agenda. And you're very professional, I have to say, like Christine said. And I just, I wanted to get to know you. And when I heard that you were leaving, I was so shocked, because I wasn't expecting that. But we're going to miss you for sure. And even though we fight with you about things, but we do appreciate you. And thank you for supporting the newbies, especially me, and giving us the insight and all of that stuff. I really appreciate it, and I hope, and the fact that you are retiring is something that I saw when you were saying that you are retiring, you smile. I guess you want to do that. So might as well wish you a good luck, and we're going to throw a party for sure.
Well, I've said it before, and I will say it again. I am grateful to you, Kevin, on many levels. A lot have been stated here around the planning, the foresight, the professional management of the city. And a huge piece of that, and what makes our city be able to function and as well as it does, given our challenges, is your secret, unique, secret sauce ability to recruit and bring talent here and build a team. And I know organizational development, organizational culture, we've had conversations about these kinds of things, but I think you truly get Pacifica and have understood the need here from a point of view of moving, the city where we were with our documents, as Greg was mentioning, and how to set us for success for the future. And I've seen that, I'm just looking at an all-star cast right at the back of the room, and it's because of you that all those folks are there. And they are a great team, and together this staff is a great team because of you. It wasn't us. We didn't do it. I want you to know we don't get to do that part. Believe me, Kevin had to make that clear to me real early on. But that's, I'm sort of joking, but you mentioned the newbie council members. Well, hello, we were all newbie council members during the time that Kevin's been here. So he, the life cycle of a council member, right? The lessons learned and maybe the ways in which they had to be introduced to us around this is roles and responsibilities. This is what a policy level oversight of a council is in terms of our interaction with you, with the city manager, with staff. What is our job? What is your job? It's easy, it certainly was easy for me to think, this is like the most glorified public service you could ever do, right? Being a city council member. But it is a really different job. It is not super opportunity to push the things you really care about in town. People assumed when I ran, it would be all about libraries. Like that would be the only thing I ever talked about. And it's really not the only thing I ever talk about, for sure, because it is the eye-opening and awareness-building experience of what it takes to run this city. And you understood it, and you've brought us talent, and you brought us planning, and you brought us stability. So thank you. You've set us up for success. Thank you.
I have to say one more thing.
Oh, please.
One thing that I admire about you is the hiring. This whole is the diversity that we have. We have all kinds of people, you name it, and we have it here in Pacifica, and I really appreciate that.
All right.
Can you make sure to leave the hat and the rabbit farm, please?
Pull a rabbit out of a hat. All right.
Through the mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to recognize that Director Dijonay is here. And I just wanted to thank you for such a beautiful recognition of the new building and for Jack and everything. It was wonderful. It was a really wonderful event. And the building is beautiful.
Thank you so much. It was a beautiful start to that new building and to that future for North County Water District. The dedication of the building to former chair and longtime North County Water District Council member Jack Burgett. That occurred last week. So thank you. All right, Council, shall we take up item 5, our consideration item on our agenda tonight, which is really a study session to discuss the future adoption of local amendments to the 2025 edition of the California Building Standards Code and Fire Code. And we have a presentation from Community Development Director Samantha Updegrave. I think on hand are Acting Deputy Fire Chief Craig Wintner and Certified Building Official Greg McFan. And City Manager, did you want to kick it off with any introductory framing?
Sure. While Ms. Updegrave is getting set up, and as you mentioned, Acting Deputy Fire Chief Whitner is here as well, and is Certified Building Official McCann there? Okay, great. We're all here. For this item, as the council is aware, I'll frame our timeline here. Is for the building code updates, we have a compressed timeline has to go into effect before the end of the calendar year, or before January 1st. And so this is the first touch point, and it's in the study session format to really have a dialogue and get input on certain aspects of this. And then there's a couple other steps that I think the presentation probably will cover, but we'll need to come back and get formal direction from the council in order to develop the ordinance changes that then, and that's at the point at which the city attorney's office is involved in detail, and we're spending more robust time on those actual ordinance changes. That comes back for the introduction, first reading, and then a follow-up meeting is the adoption, and then the ordinance goes into effect 30 days later. So we have a pretty programmed out timeline here, but again, tonight is this study session for input for the initial input on this update. And with that, I'll stop and turn it over to Ms. Updegrave.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor Beckmeyer, Vice Mayor Bowles, and Council. Samantha Updegrave, Community Development Director, joined tonight by Deputy Fire Chief Whitner and Certified Building Official Greg McFan. And we're here to talk about the 2025 California Building Standard Code update. The study session is structured to provide information about the triennial code updates and enable the City Council to consider recent state law changes that prohibit changes to residential building codes between October 1st, 2025 and June 1st, 2031, and to provide direction on future research related to REACH codes in conjunction with annual goal setting and preparation of our local ordinance. Sorry, the 2 clickers is challenging. The standards for construction of buildings are contained in Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations Building Standards, more commonly known as the California Building Code. The CBC. The CBC contains 12 parts addressing a range of regulations that comprehensively address building safety, energy efficiency, and other factors, and it's updated every 3 years. State law requires local agencies, including the City of Pacifica, to adopt these updated versions of the CBC every 3 years, which is referred to as the triennial code updates. State law allows local agencies to amend the CBC, which is otherwise standardized across the state, because of local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. And then the city must adopt our next cycle so that it can be effective January 1st, 2026. Okay. Go. Oh boy. Okay. I did want to just draw your attention to, there was some reorganization within the CBC this cycle, where there's a new Part 7 Wildland Urban Interface Code. So these are the wildfire requirements that establish minimum standards for the protection of life and property by increasing the ability of buildings to resist intrusion of flames or burning embers projected by a vegetation fire and reducing structure loss. These codes used to be located, or regulations used to be located throughout the building code, and so they've now just been consolidated into a new Part 7 that we'll also need to adopt. And then just to provide some clarification, because I know this question comes up often when we talk about these. The applicability of Part 7 is based on the fire hazard severity zones, and they break that down even further into the state areas of responsibility, where the regulations apply in any designated fire hazard severity zone, and the local areas of responsibility, which look at very high and high fire hazard severity zones. So that was just a reference because it is something that is changing. Moving into the REACH code and state law changes. So what are REACH codes? So there are changes to the CBC due to local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. And they're called REACH codes because they exceed the otherwise standardized requirements of the CBC. Pacifica first adopted REACH codes in 2019 in that cycle. The changes included, or the REACH codes included defining all electric buildings, requiring all electric for new buildings except in some circumstances. So for residential, non-electric cooking appliances and fireplaces were still allowed. For non-residential restaurants meeting certain criteria were allowed to use gas-fueled cooking. Accessory dwelling units were exempt, as were public agency owned and operated emergency centers. Along with those exceptions, however, came a requirement for pre-wiring, also known as electric ready, when gas was used, except it did not apply to restaurants. The other REACH codes that were adopted in 2019 were the requirements for photovoltaic panel installation. So for non-residential, 3 or fewer habitable stories, hotels, motels, and high-rise multifamily buildings with 10 habitable stories or fewer. In 2022, the REACH codes that were adopted eliminated the previous exceptions for all-electric construction. So for residential, it no longer provided an exception for non-electric cooking appliances or fireplaces, eliminated the exception for ADUs, as well as public agency-owned and operated emergency centers. It also prohibited any gas in an all-electric building constructed after January 1st, 2023, except a narrow exception for restaurants within the commercial areas of mixed-use buildings. Added a definition of new construction building for the purpose of electrification requirements, and established EV or electric vehicle or EV standards for residential and non-residential uses. And then outside of the energy codes, also added utility undergrounding and expanded geotech hazard assessments in certain areas. Okay, so that was a lot with all the changes. So just to summarize, the existing green building reach codes that we currently have are an all-electric requirement for new construction and only an exception for restaurants, and that pre-wiring exception, or the pre-wiring requirement now only applies to restaurants that use that exception. The photovoltaic panels for non-residential buildings, 3 or fewer stories, hotels, motels, and high-rise multifamily buildings. It requires electric vehicle readiness parking standards for single-family and two-family dwelling units, as well as electric vehicle readiness and charging station standards for multifamily dwellings and non-residential uses. Building official McFan conducted an comparative analysis of our current local amendments for the REACH codes to the 2025 building codes, and found that there were 2 areas where the new California building code is either more restrictive or matches the language in our REACH code. And so the typical practice when that happens is to rescind our local and just allow the state code to be the driver. And so that had to do with some of the EV-ready requirements for signage and automatic load management systems. So in terms of the all-electric building requirements, the California Restaurant Association versus the City of Berkeley, the Ninth Circuit struck down Berkeley's REACH code prohibiting installation of natural gas piping. And because of that, Pacifica cannot enforce its all-electric building requirement for new construction. Recent state law changes, in particular Assembly Bill 130, was a budget trailer bill signed by Governor Gavin Newsom on June 30th of this year and went into effect immediately. It impacts the adoption of local amendments by placing essentially a moratorium on new state and local building standards affecting residential units for the next 2 code cycles, so October 1st of this year through June 30th of 2031. There are 5 exceptions to that, and they include changes or modifications that are substantially equivalent to changes or modifications that were in effect as of September 30th of 2025, necessary as an emergency standard, related to home hardening, related to administrative practices, and then I'm just going to read this one word for word because it's a long one. Changes or modifications necessary to implement a local code amendment that is adopted to align with a general plan approved on or before June 10th, 2025, and that permits mixed fuel, i.e. electric and natural gas, residential construction consistent with federal law while also incentivizing all-electric construction as part of an adopted greenhouse gas emission reduction strategy. So Pacifica's General Plan 2040 was adopted in July of 2022 and contains goals and policies related to air quality, energy, and greenhouse gas reduction, primarily found within the conservation element. And I provided a table of those within the staff report. So some potential options for study would be for new construction to look at the all-electric requirements, determine incentives, that should say all-electric or mixed fuel, and electric readiness in mixed fuel buildings. For existing buildings, there are opportunities to look at installing efficient, renewable, or electrification measures within existing building, using a weighted menu of efficiency, renewable, or electrification measures. And there's a program called FlexPath that I think generally entails those strategies. Other local amendments Oh, that is embarrassing.
That's okay. Don't worry.
It's been a week for me too. So maybe we'll talk about that in question and answer.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Then we can bring those comments forward at that time.
Okay. Thank you. And so looking onward for council direction, should staff prepare the existing REACH codes that were not superseded by the 2025 CBC for readoption? Confirm whether staff should proceed with repeal of the city's all-electric building requirements? And should staff prepare an item for consideration during the fiscal year 26-27 goal setting and work plan to development a process to study potential adoption of REACH codes under one of the exceptions?
Okay.
And that concludes my presentation. And again, I'm here with Deputy Chief Whitner and Greg McFan for questions.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. All right. First off, I want to check with council to see if anyone has questions for any of our staff members.
I have a number of questions, but I think I'll wait until after public comment and then
Okay.
go through them.
Anything
Yeah.
clarifying at this point?
I too would like to wait till after public comment. Thank
Okay. All right then. Well, that sounds like maybe we'll go to public comment. I don't have any cards, however, on this item. And so I will check with our assistant city attorney to see, city clerk to see if there's anyone on the phone lines that
No.
wishes to speak. No hands raised. There just isn't. Okay, well then bring it back to council. How would you like to proceed?
I like these 6 o'clock meetings. Nobody shows up.
Even when we make them wait a whole, half an hour, or whatever. Who would like to start?
Well, I have a number of questions that relate to fire and then some that relate to building. And then I think it would be good to go through the list of proposed changes.
Okay,
There's a particular table,
so should we start with the fire questions then?
if that makes sense to
Works for
everybody
me.
else, just
Yeah.
to focus so we're not jumping around.
Yes, so we'll start with fire questions and then we'll work through the changes, recommended changes to existing, because it sounds like one of the questions that we need to answer for staff is what we want them to prepare for goal setting.
Right.
Okay, please go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Okay. I'm still trying to understand the fire maps, and I so appreciate that you're back here with us, Acting Chief Whitner. And so I've asked staff if they don't mind pulling up the new CAL FIRE map, and then also there was a map of wildland urban interface in Pacifica, which is the first time I've seen that in the housing element EIR.
Those maps are at the end of the presentation. I believe it's slide number 25 shows them side by side.
Okay. Okay.
It's a lot for one slide.
So just as a first question, so the map on the right is the map that we've recently adopted, that CAL FIRE has updated the fire hazard severity zones in Pacifica. And perhaps as a starting point, you can speak to the building code changes. The red is the very high fire, and then the orange is the high. And just explaining to us and the public, what are these new requirements that maybe weren't in the code before, or perhaps they were, or perhaps the areas have expanded. And then, sorry, whether it's like it's just new construction, or is it, existing remodels also?
Is it on now? Okay, thank you. Always have the hardest time with this mic. So the map we're looking at, as you said, ma'am, is the local responsibility area, fire hazard severity zones created by CAL FIRE. So prior to, I believe it was February 24th of this year, we didn't have any local responsibility area, or LRA,
maps from CAL FIRE. When I say we, state agencies, local agencies throughout the state had worked within the fire hazard severity zone maps that were created by CAL FIRE back in 2008. Many cities, such as the former city I used to work for up in Reading, adopted those maps, but they did not include LRA or local responsibility areas like we have in the city of Pacifica now. These are new to us. So what it means is various jurisdictions throughout the state prior to this year worked within the state or SRA maps created by CAL FIRE. Now we have our own map that's been created by CAL FIRE, which covers our jurisdiction, City of Pacifica, and defines the 3 zones, moderate, high, and very high. What that means is the new building code or the new regulations for this triennial code adoption currently exist. As soon as we adopted the maps, the LRA maps, if we had any development in the very high, the red areas, the regulations would have automatically applied to those areas. What the state has told us their intention is to make some of those same rules apply to the high or orange areas in the city of Pacifica, and they're mostly twofold. They are the primary, I don't feel bad, I get confused daily, so. The primary change is the Chapter 7A requirements. So Chapter 7A, when I say Chapter 7A, that's the California Wild and Urban Interface Code now. Most of us, like me, are used to working within the Chapter 7A language, the chapter in the building code, which told us how to build things in those wild and urban interface areas, primarily the fire hazard severity zones. So now what the state is telling us is they are going to apply to the high areas as of January 26th. And also for some further clarification, and an additional question was, elsewhere within the California Wild and Urban Interface Code, the new one, or some erroneous language that was mistakenly sent to publication before changes were made as intended. So the state fire marshal has told us throughout the state, because they were peppered with questions, because as soon as we got the codes, we started noticing that the language in the code does not reflect the what the state has been telling us these last 8 months through the adoption of the new LRA maps. So what they told us was that they're going to have some emergency amendments, emergency legislation that is going to fix these first edition books and clean up that language, which is confusing. So what this means to us is the state is telling us by January 2026, what is currently required in the very high, the red areas for construction, will be required in the high areas for the city of Pacifica. That's the primary change.
Okay. And so, I mean, as an architect, I work in these fire areas in other cities, and so that's where I was hoping to get like a little explanation of kind of what the basic requirements are. So, like from my understanding, like walls need to be fire rated from the inside and outside. Your windows need to be tempered. Your vents need to be screened so embers can't come in.
Sure.
Things like that.
Great question. It means exteriors. So we won't necessarily have fire-rated assemblies like we work within, architects work with all the time in both residential but primarily commercial construction. It's your exterior accoutrements. It's our exterior walls need to be non-combustible. It's windows, it's venting, it's construction materials on the exterior of our homes, and it's defensible space for new construction.
Rooftops,
Pardon me?
roofs as well.
Yes, sir. Roofs as well, exteriors.
Is that for new building or existing, will the existing one then have to retrofit?
No,
Oh.
it does not mean retrofits. It means new buildings, but it also means some remodels. Some remodels will require fire-resistant construction, but again, it's exteriors. So if I had a 1,200-foot single-family home on a lot, and I happen to be in the high area, and I want to add on to my home, that new addition would have to comply with the fire-resistant construction requirements, but not the remainder of the home, only the new exterior construction.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That's super helpful. And then I guess I've been confused in trying to talk to other cities because now these wildland urban interface maps are all in this chapter, or these definitions are in this chapter. But my understanding before, and this ties to this map on the left, is that, you know, beyond the fire hazard areas, there are areas where we have development close to open space that also is more dangerous for fires, right? And the staff report says that the city of Pacifica has not adopted wildland urban interface ordinances, but talking with a council member in Hillsborough and in other cities, they have. So that my understanding is that these requirements then also apply to these potential maps of where wildland urban interfaces are, you know, that are even beyond the CAL FIRE maps. Am I wrong in that?
No, ma'am, I don't think you're wrong. If I may, I'm going to answer that in two parts. Firstly, I'd like to try my best to address this term WUI, or wildland urban interface.
Yeah.
WUI is a very general term, but you have to be specific about what you're talking about. There's a multitude of WUI, or wildland urban interface areas throughout California. There are various maps which talk about different WUI areas. For example, the federal wildland urban interface maps that the U.S. Forest Service uses. I have to be transparent here. Prior to this map adoption that we started talking about months ago, I was totally unfamiliar with the federal WUI maps because, you know, the 25 years I've been working for the Fire Service, we don't deal with those because we're not federal agencies. So the federal WUI maps really are for federal lands. They have nothing to do with our state lands. One more thing is the FRAP maps. You know, the state agencies have to have acronyms. That stands for Fire and Resource Assessment Program. They are a division within CAL FIRE that collects data, they analyze it, they utilize the data, one of the divisions, and they help create the fire hazard severity zone maps, which govern us in the state of California. They're both the state responsibility area as well as now our LRA, or local responsibility area maps. So when we're talking about maps, us here in the city of Pacifica, there's only one set of maps which govern us, and that is the fire hazard severity zone maps. And those are the maps that drive our development and local planning decisions, the regulations that we're going to be talking about.
Okay, so these maps, the one that's on the screen is not from the federal, it's from the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection from 2019, but you're saying that doesn't apply to us here either?
No, the only maps that apply to us here in the city of Pacifica are going to be from CAL FIRE, and those are our fire hazard severity zone maps. Those are the state maps for both state lands and local lands that govern our regulations.
Okay. And is there still, like cities like Hillsborough that have adopted separate wildland urban interface ordinances before under the prior code? Is that still an option?
They have done so prior to the release of the new LRA maps, and there'll be cities who change or alter their maps or their rules after these maps have been released and adopted. And so they did it various ways. They're simply ordinances. So months ago, when we were meeting and we're talking about adoption of these maps, we started learning about the processes, and the state gave us guidelines. They say, okay, for the moderate and high areas, you can change the designation as you see fit, but for the very high areas, you would need, if I recall the language correctly, substantial evidence entered into the record in order to do that. And then our response essentially was, we're not aware of any data that is better than what the state used to create the fire hazard severity zone maps for our LRA. That could simply be done if the city chose to create an ordinance, or we were to undertake a study to determine if additional areas in the city needed additional regulations. That could be done. With that would also require inspections and additional regulations, et cetera.
And it's an additional burden on homeowners too, right, for complying with these regulations.
It would be,
Okay.
ma'am, yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure, we weren't missing something in this map on the left that, you felt was needed, because I know it's harder to fight fires in these areas, right? It's, things that are on hills and things, open space and a lot of trees, because there's a lot more on the map on the left than on the map on the right that shows as being vulnerable that way.
Well, again, the map on the right, ma'am, is the data that the state has collected over the past several decades. So that's the model that tells us that, according to their data, the fire hazard severity in those areas is greater than your average areas. And then, of course, those three designations. I would also like to remind the council that the state has told us that it's their intention to review these maps at no more than or no longer than 5-year increments. So that's something to look forward to, that we might receive or obtain additional maps in the future once additional data has been gathered and analyzed.
Great, okay. Thank you. Those are my general questions. I had a couple as we go through the pages. I don't know if anyone else had some general fire
You just
questions.
answered my general question.
Okay.
So I'm ready to follow your lead on
Okay.
specifics.
Anybody else on fire questions? Nope. Okay.
So I had one specific question about the undergrounding utilities, and I think that was on page 95. Oh, maybe I don't have that right page number. Nope. Sorry, I think we'll get to that as we go through the chart of suggested amendments, and what we're keeping and what we're not. But or maybe I can just ask the question. Oh, shoot, because I pasted it into my agenda. I'm sorry, it's going to take me a minute to find that one. So
Packet page 94, maybe?
94, okay.
Talks about other local CBC amendments.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not finding it right this second. There was a discussion, so we have, one of our REACH codes ordinances is about undergrounding utilities that I think is not necessarily in every city, and it's required for any new construction. I wrote down it was page 95, but it's 85 now. But there were exceptions for areas that had recently been paved, within a year of the project construction. And I'm just wondering, especially in these high fire hazard severity zones, because we have more and more development that's kind of pushing to the edge, right, of these zones, and whether we want to leave some of those exceptions in or try to ask for those, especially in those high fire areas, to be underground. And I know I had a talk with PG&E, and I know they're focused on undergrounding in fire areas, right? Pacifica is not going to be high on their list, but should we be granting exceptions for that for new development? Is a question.
If I could just clarify, Vice Mayor Bowles, so you're asking about changes to the existing utility undergrounding as a potential to explore?
Right.
Okay, and Chief Whitner, did you have something to add?
No, I did not.
And Vice Mayor Bowles, just to clarify further, what we're talking about here is undergrounding requirements for private property owners, not utilities, companies like PG&E.
Correct.
That wouldn't be, it wouldn't be subject to these rules.
Yeah, I think maybe it wasn't in the staff report, but I think there was a mention of undergrounding utilities as something that we did, and I don't think there was any proposed changes, but you don't need to necessarily answer right now, but as we're considering changes, that was just something that came out to me, that maybe that's an exception that we, shouldn't necessarily grant in those high fire areas.
So,
There is a
by-
reference to undergrounding on page 94.
Yeah, and under other local CBC amendments recommended readoption, and so the recommendation is that, that they be readopted. No changes are needed based on the 2025 CBC, and staff recommends readoption of all local amendments, except as noted in the staff report about the REACH codes.
Yeah, staff wasn't proposing any changes. I think the fire had perhaps looked at all of these and weren't proposing, but I just wanted to ask the question whether that might be a good idea. Those are my fire questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any other questions that you wanted to address before the REACH codes?
Well, the other question I asked was about, there was kind of a repeating of our codes about fireworks, and again, what was written in the staff report, this is on page 99, that fire hadn't requested any changes to that language. But I wanted to ask the question of our police, and I'm not sure if Chief Sarasua is still here, about whether they had reviewed that and if they might have some other suggestions. Again, things that might help with their enforcement of particularly illegal fireworks.
And, yeah, I can address a couple of the questions that came up in advance regarding that. That particular chapter is not under consideration for revisions, but there were some good questions asked. One related to a reference in the code about if caught with, was it 25 pounds
pounds
and
or less.
under. And I did clarify with police that, and fire, that the reason that sounds odd is because if you're caught with 25 pounds of illegal fireworks or more, it moves you into a different section of the criminal code. So the short answer is it's not limited to, like you're not okay having more than 25.
24 and a half pounds is fine.
No.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
get
yeah.
it. Okay.
As well as different fines. So there is an enforcement structure
Okay.
there for all possession of any illegal fireworks. And then the other question related to would it be beneficial to insert the word transport? According to police, that's not necessary because transport is possession.
Okay.
So if you're, it doesn't matter if you're transporting, you have it in your pocket or whatever, in your house or whatever.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Just because I don't get enough opportunities to ask our friends at the fire department questions, how do you feel about those automatic shut-off valves on the gas lines coming into houses for earthquakes? Do you feel that they're an added benefit? Is that something that you think the city would benefit from if we made that a code in the future, say in 2031?
I don't deal with that subject very often, sir, but anytime we can get something to automatically shut off during an event, I would think that's probably a good idea.
And do you have a higher propensity for fire hazards that occur through electric appliances or gas appliances?
Apologies, sir, I don't have data on that. I strictly look at them as ignition sources, but I would say that we have fires of equal value on both sides. Matter of fact, we had a water heater fire maybe 2 weeks ago, just a matter of combustible stacked too close to a water heater. But we have a range of electrical appliances that also fail too, so.
Okay. And in terms of ember cast diameter on the venting on houses, do we learn any good lessons from the fire down south that we should contemplate changing in our codes?
No, sir, I think the state's going in the right direction. I know it can be frustrating for homeowners to make changes over time, but I believe the direction that they're going in making the openings in our screens 16th to an 1/8 inch is a good direction. But also I'd urge homeowners to look at what else they can do on their own despite regulations. There are better products out there. There's a couple of companies out there. One is Vulcan Venting. That makes a great product. Brand Guard Vents also make a great product that are actually designed to prevent the intrusion of fire and embers into our home. Something to look at. There's a cost difference, but there's a benefit too.
And do you have a website that tells people about like what defensible space means, what your recommendations are in terms of defensible space, like not attaching wood fences to your house, for example? Where can people find that kind of information?
So CAL FIRE's put an awful lot of time and money into their website, and most jurisdictions like ours have links to them. There is good information on the North County Fire Authority website, but I would say the best authority is actually the Ready for Wildfire that is designed and for us by CAL FIRE that talks about defensible space and home hardening. They have very layman explanations of things with pictures, et cetera. And then lastly, I would just say, if people have questions, call their local fire department and talk to one of us. Talk to the fire marshal, talk to the fire inspectors. We work for them and we have the information ready for them.
And do you happen to have that phone number committed to memory?
No, my memory's not so good, sir. But I do have it available here. It's getting worse by the year. So our general line at the fire department is 650-800-6580. And they can also reach us on the web at northcountyfire.gov.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Do you do any collaboration with insurance companies about what it is they might want to see?
Personally, no. However, belonging to the State Fire Marshal's group, we do collaborate, and we received actually recently with the release of the new maps, some trainings and yes, collaborations from local insurance representatives, including the State Fire Marshal had some of the insurance representatives providing us with information, talking about legislation, and essentially information to present to the consumers, the end users, the homeowners, about how to reduce risk.
And are you aware of anywhere in Pacifica that has any ULD listed electrical panels, for example, like some of the old Federal Pacific panels, in any areas that people might want to consider changing? Are you aware of any of?
I don't have any of that information, sir. Apologies.
Okay. That's all my general questions for now. Thank you for being so well informed, and thank you for your service.
My pleasure, sir.
Vice Mayor?
So if we're ready to move on, I was going to suggest we go to packet page 110, and this is where there's a list of our current REACH codes and comparisons to new building codes. And it's just interesting what we have as REACH codes, because I usually think of things in terms of electrification and building more green, but here we have one about affordable housing, the first one on page 110. And I don't know if it needs any changes, but I was just going to suggest that perhaps Hart could take a look at this with us to see if they might have any suggestions. So this is about protecting affordable housing units that are built for at least 45 years, and covenants, deed restrictions, so forth, resale. I don't know if this applies to sale of units too. I think I've heard that we are maybe lacking a little bit in definition of some of that. I don't know if that belongs in a REACH code, or I was just surprised to see this in a REACH code. So.
Yeah, if I may, Vice Mayor Bowles, I believe that the reason why we have a definition is because our codes have certain exceptions for affordable housing units. but the CBC does not have a definition.
I see.
And so this was added during the 2022 code cycle for Pacifica, so that we have a standard in which we can apply.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure the staff that's working with, the Hart staff that's working with us would be amenable to questions or.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have specific questions, but they're the experts on that, obviously. And then, so I had a conversation, I called Blake Hershaft from Peninsula Clean Energy, and I believe Councilmember Wright had a conversation with him too, and he's actually on the line tonight, or he told me he would be. I can't tell if he's here or not. If we have any follow-up questions, but just on the electric vehicle changes, so in some cases we're keeping what we have, and in other cases we're adopting the new language in the California Green Building Standards Code. And then, so I had a couple of specific questions on D, which is level 2 electric vehicle charging station. It says a parking space that meets all required, so I'm sorry, so this is on packet page 111. And now I've just lost my spot. Yeah, level 2 ready parking space, and also includes installation of the vehicle supply equipment. And then the new code is not about being ready, it's about actually charging space. So my understanding is that the new code is a lot stricter and not just needing to provide EV ready, but providing actual EV spaces, charging spaces. So I just wanted to clarify that language.
Yeah. Are you talking about the definitions, Vice Mayor Bowles?
No, this is a particular amendment. So packet page 111.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, it does
I
say
think-
amended definitions, yes.
I think Mr. McFan has information on that.
The code sections, the Pacifica Reach code section has a lot more words. In the final, it says the same thing. You need, Pacifica uses, doesn't abbreviate electric vehicle supply equipment, the state does. So the state's just using less words to get to the same place. So you haven't lost anything by just going to the state code on this one. You're getting the same thing that the Pacifica was asking for today.
But I think the Vice Mayor Bowles, if I might,
Yeah, please.
the recommended action identified in subsection D is to keep the Pacifica Reach Code language.
Yeah,
So, but
there's
what
no
you're
reason to go either way. I mean, it's there. There's no reason to change it.
right. So what you're saying is it's the same, so we should just keep what we have.
Okay, but it does say EV ready here as opposed to just an EV space. Again, this is the definition. Maybe it's not as important as further down. Let me just, and then further down so the state has much simpler language. Instead of saying, what the amperage is and, 208, 240, it just says a vehicle space provided with a branch circuit, any necessary raceways, blah, 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 and it doesn't define the level of the charging. And so what was explained to me by Blake today, and I'll just say it, and then maybe you can tell me if that's correct. So we had some, level 1, which is a slow trickle charger, and then we're requiring level 2, which is a, pretty fast charger. The state has an intermediate, a slow level 2, low power level 2 that they are allowing. So what I was told is that is twice as fast as a level 1, but twice as slow as a level 2. So in between the two, and that the state allows that, where ours requires the faster level 2. And so the concern, I mean, it seems to me like that's what we'd want, right? For people to be able to charge more quickly. But the concern that was raised from Peninsula Clean Energy's point of view is that that is a much more expensive outlet for a developer to put in. And it might actually, and car charging is just a huge electrical load draw, right? And so by requiring something that's faster than the state requires, we're actually adding a considerable amount of cost to the development of housing that might be a burden and precluding some housing development. And I know HCD has been looking very carefully at some of that with us, and so I just wanted to raise that question.
And Christine, were you talking about E or F? I feel like
It's in several of those. So
Okay.
where it talks about,
And
level one, mostly,
I would add a little bit of clarity to that, because in terms of that, it may necessitate, the two different sources may necessitate a different thickness of wire from the readiness perspective. And I personally would be in favor of having the larger wire in there in order to be able to accommodate the faster charger, which would require more amps. And we might be better off, if we're going to get into the nitty-gritty, requiring a particular number of amps. Like my personal one runs on a 40-amp 220 circuit, for example.
that's what mine does too, and it's faster, but I'm saying it is an expense, right? We've put in one, but.
Well, for the
these-
charger is what I heard them saying that was the expense. The wire isn't that much more expensive. I'd be more interested in making sure we have the right wire in the wall
Well, that's fine,
than
but
the
this,
charger on the wall.
yeah, I don't care so much about the wire, but it needs to go back to a spot on the panel, which is where it gets expensive. Right, to have room for the larger.
To have room,
Anyway,
yes.
perhaps our building official here
My
can.
recollection from 3 years ago, the council had a discussion on this item, and the discussion was that they wanted the larger charger, the larger power, because the thought was level one is not particularly useful. I mean, you have to park for a long time to get it to charge your car. And
Right,
that
but
was
now
my
there are other options right in
Yeah.
between.
Right,
Yeah.
but that was,
So what,
If I may, Vice Mayor Bowles, I want to just make sure we have clear direction on this. So what I'm hearing is that there now may be a development of a level of charging that's in between 1 and 2. And we don't have maybe the details on that, and so it would be something we would want to research
Yeah.
and try to understand, okay, well, so what are the installation cost impacts, or anything we can find out. We'll talk to PCE and others, but if that's an area that the council wants us to research before we bring this back, we're happy to do that.
I
Mayor-
just want
Mayor
everybody to
Beckmeyer?
have what I have.
I'm sorry for the interruption. It looks like Blake Hershoft, maybe the individual from PCE that you're speaking of, Vice Mayor Bowles, has a hand raised on the Zoom.
So we'll open a public comment for him to, since he's not a staff member that's been brought in by the city,
Yeah.
for him
so
to make public comment?
If that's the will of the council, then that
Yeah,
can be done.
that's fine. We'll open public comment. Blake Hershoff, do you see Blake Hershoff on the line, Assistant City Clerk?
Yes, this is Blake Hershoff with Peninsula Clean Energy.
Oh, there he is. Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to help clarify some things. My name is Blake Hershoff. I'm the Building Electrifications Engineer for Peninsula Clean Energy. I've been supporting on our REACH Codes program since 2019, and this has been quite a complicated issue. Pacifica's REACH Code is in some ways more stringent, the one that's currently on the books in terms of level of charging. I would also add that during the intervening code cycle, which happens between the 3 years, 18 months in, there was also a direct wiring requirement that was made. So this, if you're in a multifamily dwelling unit, this requires that the outlet gets wired directly from the parking space to the unit, allowing the unit to be the actual occupant of that unit to pay for the electricity used by that car. That was one addition that was made, as well as the addition that Councilmember Bowles had correctly noted, which is low power level 2 requirement. Peninsula Clean Energy tends to recommend level 1 or greater. I do remember Pacifica's code was more than that. The state code is low power level 2 and then directly wired to the unit. I hope that helps, and I can be here for other questions.
I'd be happy to ask him another question.
Please, by all means, he's here.
Blake, could you help me with explaining my frustration about a state that says that we have to have all electric cars by X date and then reduces our parking requirements, and then we're looking at potentially not putting EV chargers on everything in new construction? It seems like we're getting a dual message. Can you give me some clarity on are our codes sufficient in terms of planning for the future, or are we building in future problems?
Our Reach Codes team is very excited about the direction on this particular item, which is multifamily charging. I have commuted on a little bit more than the average American commute on a level 1 charger for 5 years previously. Level 2 chargers are nicer to have, but when you're trying to balance the cost of, basically the big cost is at the service size on a large multifamily. The higher you go per parking space, it can really increase the kilowatts of draw related to just EV charging. So that's why we've always had a balance between allowing a slower speed that still works while ensuring that everyone has an outlet at their home. That's generally been our approach as technical support.
I put 125 miles on my electric car today. Would you have been able to accomplish that with your level 1 charging?
Or level 2.
Doing the math?
Doing the math.
With your level 1 charger that you were a proponent of, would you be able to get 125 miles of range with overnight charging with your level 1 charger?
Just give me one more second. No. So with a level 1 charger, you would have had 2 overnight sessions to replenish that vehicle.
And what about the mid-range? Or maybe we can find this out later, as we consider.
Another, yes, you would have charged overnight on the low power level 2.
Okay.
125 is a decent amount in a day. And you could have multiple days to replenish that, but we also don't want, you don't fill up your gasoline tank for people who drive ICE every day, but this is definitely a balance, and up to the council to make the decision. That's why low power level 2 does have a significant benefit. So in short, you would have replenished that on low power level 2, not on level 1.
Yeah, the consideration was it was as simple as going over to visit my mother in the East Bay and coming back, and then a little bit of running around town.
Oh.
And my concern is if we make it only level 1 or low level 2, that people wouldn't necessarily be able to charge, or if people are sharing a parking spot because it's a 2 or 3 bedroom place and they actually need to charge 2 cars, then we would be shorting them and we could be building in a potential problem. So I'm an advocate for as much charging capacity as we can put in. But whatever the strictest one is we can get away with, that's what I would like to do.
I agree, and that's what I put. I had a level 1 before and I switched to level 2, but at some point it becomes expensive on these multifamily, and so, what is the trade-off? So I think that's something that would be helpful to understand a little bit more.
That, and I would add to that, as Councilmember Wright mentioned, the changing nature of the requirements, especially as they're coming not from building codes, but from housing development from Housing and Community Development, and the limitations on parking that we're seeing time and again. And it's clear there's an emphasis and an urgency for public transportation, it seems to me, in multifamily, and citing that kind of housing near transit. But we are well aware that all of our entire community is not near transit per se. So it feels like we're in a place of having to buck the state in some ways. And so I'm wondering, this is now to the question, as you look at this and prepare this for our adoption, do we need to take another look at the multifamily requirements? Because I'm hearing units wired to specific dwelling units, but I'm also wondering about charging for the visitor parking, or in cases like you mentioned, Greg, where there's more than one vehicle that needs to be charged. Is there some other additional EV charging requirement that we should be making, or that we should be retaining in our code, or attempting to retain? Because we're going to be building more, right? I mean, ordinarily, this isn't an issue. We sort of like whatever the books say, whatever, we're not doing it, so it's not an issue, but we're going to be doing this. So I want to make sure that the rules that we've outlined are practical for people and developers and everybody.
Maybe something like one supercharging site for every 25 units or something.
I mean, I don't know what it would be. I'm just raising the question as to whether it ought to be something for our consideration and potential approval, because I know time will get short by the time we need to approve this by December.
Thank you, Mayor Beckmeyer. So the number of EV stalls that are required are actually established in the zoning ordinance, and then the building code instructs you what to or how to build it, I guess, or what the requirements are.
Okay.
So I think we would need to look at those. I think it's separate and related.
Right. Okay. Well, if you could put that on your list so that we make sure, because if it turns out, oh, whoops, it needs to really be changed in the zoning code,
Yeah.
then we have a laundry list of whenever we're ready to make those slight amendments, not let's reopen the whole thing tomorrow, but, you know, if we're making updates anyway, these are things we need to look at again.
And that is something in the housing element that I believed we're charged with looking at in terms of like our overall zoning modernization and reform, and looking at citywide standards. So parking is a big part of that, you know, and is identified, as I think a couple of people mentioned, as a potential constraint on housing development. So that is definitely an area of future study as it relates to housing production as well.
Okay. Other items?
Yeah. So obviously this council passed REACH codes that required all electric for new construction in the past. And boy, we'd sure like to do that again. And I understand, you know, from talking with the city attorney's office, some of what's written in the staff report here, that we're really limited on that now because of the Berkeley ruling, and now because of AB 130, unless we, you know, can find some exceptions under our general plan. And we had some discussions before that there might be a path for that in our general plan. Can you speak to that a little bit? I know none of that's really been analyzed right now, but.
Right, as indicated in the staff report, there was the bill AB 130 that was signed into law this summer, and there are numerous exceptions. So depending on the direction from council, depending on the ordinance that's drafted, we would look at the exceptions to determine if there's one that applies. There is one in particular that Director Updegrave flagged in reading it, the general plan policy exception. And so we would look at that, and as the ordinance is prepared, prepare findings for the council to make when the ordinance is adopted, so that that exception could apply to the ordinance that's adopted.
So for today, I mean, we're not directing that work, right? This is, but just expressing interest and, exploring that next year as part of goal setting.
Right, so as
Here,
part of the
here.
process, we would look at the exceptions and applicable and determine which one applies, if any, and then recommend the findings as the ordinance is brought forward.
Okay. Okay. I think that's something I don't know, do we?
I am in agreement with that. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. And then, so my concern is just in the interim, right? Because we might get some applications, maybe we're not working on this till the spring, and it takes a little time. And I want to make sure that we're not missing if there's some electric-ready ordinances that we might need. But again, in speaking with Blake today, and I haven't fully studied the new building code yet, but I understand there's a lot of changes that require heat pump heating or water heaters in most cases, and/or, electrical outlets nearby. So perhaps, Greg, if you don't mind speaking to that, sort of what's coming in the code so that it makes us feel better that we.
For years, the state discouraged heat pump technology, and about 6 years ago, they started to change that, and as the energy code changes, it encourages more and more heat pump technology, more efficient technology that's electric rather than gas. And so I don't know all the specifics in the new code on it yet, but every year there's changes to that makes it easier and more encouraged to do it, to go that direction rather than natural gas appliances.
So I guess just in terms of further study, if you're not quite up on it yet, it would be good to know if there are some gaps, right, where the state code is not requiring, conduits, outlets, whatever it is, so that if someone is putting in gas, they could later, and have the room, right, for the equipment that's fitting in.
Yeah, I believe the new code does require, if you're putting in gas appliances, you also have to wire it for electric. So it's for dryers, ranges, that kind of thing. You have to put in the electrical capacity to use the electric, even though you're using gas. So that's in the code now.
Okay. So you're and that's for new construction, either single family or multifamily mixed use.
Yeah, I believe that's in both. We can check that.
We can verify that too when we come back for final direction.
Okay, that'd be great.
Can I interrupt for a quick,
Oh,
get
please,
one
yeah.
quick question in?
Please.
Could you speak to any of the requirements, particularly back around the EV charging and the homeowner use as well, with any kind of load management equipment? And is there anything in the codes about that?
I'm not, there is some language about load management. I'd have to go back and take a look at it specifically. But there is some, I don't think it's in multifamily, I don't think it's in single-family homes.
That was part of the consideration. In other words, not to require them to have to get such a big system. Instead, they could get something that manages the load so that when they're charging cars, maybe it doesn't charge it quite as much if they need.
Exactly. There's some language in the new code along that lines. I'd have to go back and look specifically what it says.
I would appreciate some better understanding of that for me, so you could educate me. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's perfect.
Other ones on building?
No, I think,
I wanted to talk about the bicycle question.
yeah.
So, bicycle parking requirements, was that the nature of the comments, Councilmember Wright?
And bicycle charging too, because now that's a new
Oh.
thing.
Yeah,
It was charging.
I would want charging where the bicycle parking is, at least an outlet.
Okay. And presently, it's not that way. It doesn't speak to it, or?
Just want to make sure that it's available. And I don't know how we'd figure out who pays for it, but
PCE, no, just kidding. Bike and ped, grants.
preferably,
Part of new development, so the developer.
preferably the solar panels on the roof, but
Right? So charging for e-bikes is
And-
what I'm hearing.
So just to be clear, are we talking about charging at residential units, multifamily units?
Multifamily units that we require bicycle parking for, that they have an outlet in case their bike happens to be an electric bike, that they can charge it.
Okay, I think that, and Director Updegrave can clarify, but I think that requirement would again be something in the zoning code. If we're saying to multifamily units that you have to have bicycle parking and electric charging.
Well, there are different requirements. So the zoning provides a menu of options for meeting bicycle parking requirements. They don't all include separate rooms. And I actually think currently right now our bicycle parking is for non-residential only, non-residential uses only. I can definitely double check that. When you have though an enclosed bicycle room, I believe that the requirements for outlets would come from the electrical code. Is that, Greg, if you have enclosed bicycle parking like a bicycle room, would the requirement for outlets be driven by the electrical code in terms of where they're required or how many are required?
Yeah, it's what you talked about earlier. Planning, zoning determines how many you need, and then the building or electric code talks about how to do the infrastructure for it. So, yeah, if there's a requirement for a certain number of electric bikes, then the electric code would be able to tell you what load you need and how many plugs and that type of thing.
I would just appreciate it if you could look into what it is that we could do to facilitate there being some bike charging wherever the bike parking is. I don't know what the answer may be, but I do consider it a potential problem.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anything further on bikes?
And a potential community benefit.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Director Updegrave actually explained what the bike language was. I understand there's no changes, but I'm not sure what is in there.
Point of order.
Yes, ma'am?
Can you just explain like that? You just where are we and how are we going through the rest of this? Because I think I'm getting lost in all the questions and I'm losing where we are.
Well, we went through the, first the fire, and then we've been through the items related to the building code. And I knew that we had to
The bike.
hit the issue of the bike comment. So are there other, to Councilmember Beer's point, are there specific items in the staff report? There was a table or something that you want to make sure you get direction from council from tonight?
The direction, well, I think the bike thing is easy to explain. So it was confusing when I think it's packet page 114. The way that the others are written describes what's in our current code and then what's in the 2025 CBC. But there was no information under the bike parking. And that was simply because in the previous cycle, we had deleted the Cal Green building standards for bicycles, and there were no changes, and so it was just a maintain status quo recommendation. However, I can share that the zoning ordinance requires parking spaces equal to 10% of required parking for all non-residential development with a minimum of 2 spaces, whereas the Cal Green requirements are based on tenant occupants and have a minimum of 1 space. So our code already generates more. So it was just a no change.
Okay.
Sorry for that confusion.
That's great.
And then your second question, could you repeat, please, Mayor Beckmeyer?
I didn't have a second question. I just wanted to make sure that anything you might have needed direction from us about that was in the staff report, anything you wanted us to specifically respond to tonight.
Director Updegrave, it may be helpful to put up the slide
Oh,
on
yeah.
the recommendations.
Let's do that.
Yes, it's slide number 21.
Here we go.
So staff's looking for direction on preparing the existing REACH codes that weren't superseded for readoption. So they do have to be readopted every cycle. And then confirming whether staff should proceed with repeal of the all-electric building requirements. And then should we prepare an item for consideration during the next annual goal setting to study the exceptions under AB 130 and kind of what that might be that you're looking for?
Can I ask a question about the repeal of the all-electric? What's the downside to not repealing it?
Because it's not enforceable, it muddies the waters, I think, for both applicants and for staff. So we generally try to have all of our codes be enforceable so that the standards are clear.
Would we end up with more electrification or less electrification if we don't repeal it?
That would be speculation, Councilmember Wright, I don't know.
It depends on what the people want. If they want to have gas, but they're going to have gas.
If they want to spend the money to fight about it, or do they just want to do it and make us
The other
happy?
question is they had to have both. Is that right? They had to have an outlet for both?
They do not. That's a great question, Councilmember Espinoza. So based on the court ruling, they can choose gas or electric. I think typically when you do have gas appliances, you do also have electric. So you do end up having both because you have electricity running other things. But you're not required to put in gas if you're doing all electric. And there are other benefits to doing all electric construction, that aren't just in the code, so that someone may choose.
It will be up to the person if they
Correct.
submit their project and they want all gas and then the other one want electric.
Yes.
But it is important to know that, currently, like the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, has regulations in place where, and we'll see if this gets challenged, but in 2027, you can't buy a gas water heater. You're not going to be able to buy a gas furnace, right? So it's important to be educating people along the way and then some of the choices are really about health, right? A gas stove now, there's a lot. And that's part of where our climate action committee,
Higher
is going to
incidence
be.
of asthma with gas appliances, et cetera.
And so I think to your point about climate action resilience committee, is that the place, the vehicle where we want to be centering that if in law our REACH codes and our building codes is not the place, right? Is this because to make it clear for builders and not have the muddied waters, as you said, presently in state law, we cannot have the all-electric requirement. Correct?
Based on federal law.
We can't have our current electrical
Right.
requirements. Right.
And we can't make any new ones until 2031 or something.
No, but there might be ways.
Unless they meet the exception.
Unless they meet the exceptions, right.
Right.
And so when the question confirms staff should proceed with repeal of all of cities' all-electric building requirements, would that be unless they meet the exceptions, or?
It would be to repeal what's in our current code now, and then kind of moving into that third question is whether we should be looking at those exceptions and exploring that. So City Clerk Coffey, if you could go back to slide 15. So there was some previous discussion in another council meeting about this potential exception, but it could allow changes or modifications to implement a local code amendment that aligns with our general plan that permits mixed fuel residential construction consistent with federal law while also incentivizing all-electric construction. And so that's something we would need to really do further study on. I think the idea would be to repeal those all-electric requirements now in accordance with federal law, and then look in the future and do study and analysis as to whether there are other options that we could adopt under this exception.
So what would be an example of incentivizing all-electric construction if you can't require it?
I think the flex path.
Oh, right.
Gosh, which I think that's through.
It's through PCE.
Yeah, through PCE. And I believe that the way that works, this is for existing buildings. This is just one example. Would be you have to get to a certain score of energy efficiency, and you have a menu of options to do that, and your all electric are going to give you a higher score, so you kind of get more bang for your buck, so to speak. But I don't know which is more expensive, but I think you understand the metaphor, right? You score higher with electric.
Mm-hmm. You can still have your gas stove, but then you have to do these other things, right? You can pick some. And I think that's really important for
It's kind of like buildings. A negotiable Title 24 report.
Right.
You're shooting for the best score.
And is that in new construction and existing, like for remodeling, or new construction only?
The flex path for PCE, the draft that they have is for existing construction. And that's where I think that's important. And because new construction is more defined in the building code, and you don't have that many choices, what we're hearing now.
Right, that's what I mean.
But, right.
We could certainly, though, research what kind of incentives, could be used in mixed fuel buildings that could encourage all electric.
Right, like if you have electric charging for the bicycles, you get a higher score, for example. Right, Greg?
Yes, and if you're looking at potentially changing a gas furnace and you can't do a heat pump because you're going to need to upgrade your service, maybe you change your stove to an electric stove, induction stove preferably, instead to reduce that load
So that balance.
as an offset.
So those kinds, that's what you mean by incentivizing.
It would allow
I see.
bartering.
Okay, so that would be something we would be discussing at goal setting? Okay, I think I'm hearing interest in that. Yes?
Yeah.
Across the board, yes.
And so then the direction from council would be to do some level of study and analysis on that exception.
Correct. So one thought, though, that I was just discussing with the city manager is that the mayor brought up the Climate Action Resiliency Committee.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that they are going to be working on preparing their tasks for next year and presenting it to the council. And based on the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan, that was an issue that they wanted to address. So that might be something that could be included in their tasks as they bring those forward.
Right. But I think having the legal clarification of what's possible, right, can help really define their work. And and for me, I think like new construction is a little bit easier to just say that we want that. Like looking at the flex path or anything that we want to do for existing construction, that's going to need a lot more outreach and education to the public and buy-in, and so that is a perfect job for them. But maybe for new buildings, that's something that we could work out, with you all and not necessarily take their time. But we can see that. back to your questions about repealing the codes, I just want to play devil's advocate for a minute. So understanding that we're not in any more legal risk if we keep them on, right, because we're not enforcing them. I believe we were told, maybe I shouldn't be saying that on here, but the other language besides the general plan conformance and, cap goals and so forth that we just read is if you have something that's substantially equivalent to changes in effect, as of November 25. So, September. I know we can't enforce those, but they are all electric codes, and just in case something changes at the state level, might it make sense to keep those on so that we could use that exception just in case we could?
The difficulty in that is that those will cycle out when we adopt the 2025 building code. So because we're not readopting them now, but we're adopting the 2025 building code or the 2025 green code, then those would basically not be updated. So I would defer to the building official, but my understanding is, if you don't readopt at this cycle, you're going to default to the state codes. And so the state codes would supersede whatever REACH codes we had previously adopted.
Okay.
So they would require readoption.
Right.
Is what you're saying.
Right.
So I'm just throwing the question out there if there might be some benefit to keeping them on the books as something to point to.
I mean,
we don't
so
have the answer tonight, but
as mentioned earlier, the downside to not repealing that ordinance is that there could be confusion about what is applicable. Staff could defer to that and not realize that it's not something that is likely enforceable, or public sees that and they misunderstand the requirements. It's just a better process to repeal ordinances that we're not enforcing because that provides clarity.
And if I could, just for a point of clarification, ask the question, so for the second bullet here, which is confirm whether we should proceed with repeal of the city's all-electric building requirements, are we saying that if we weren't to do that, then we need to hear from council about proceeding with readoption of those? And so then during this adoption cycle, there's sort of a confusing message being sent publicly that we are readopting these even though we know we can't enforce them. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that's an accurate characterization.
yeah, that seems very messy. So
It's messy, but it makes for a cooler planet.
Okay, I'm not interested in having a messy but cool plan. I'm interested in having a clear and easy to implement plan. So, I hear what you're saying, Vice Mayor. Repeal sounds awful, but I don't know what else technically that you can do.
Can't we just let it lapse and let the state do
Yeah.
us in instead?
If we don't, I guess the language is a little bit confusing because we don't need to officially repeal since we are at the next code cycle. So we would just not include them in the new ordinance.
Are we effectively adopting state codes then?
Yes.
Yeah, so we're adopting the state codes except to the extent that we make local amendments. So some of those.
Under the exceptions, as you described.
Right. So, but Director Updegrave is correct. I guess technically it's not a repeal because we are going to be, it'll be folded into all of the other changes and it just won't appear as a local amendment.
Okay.
So just for example, our EV requirements, we will readopt those, except for the ones that were superseded by state law. And so these would just be left out. So the all-electric requirements would be left out.
So we would get the maximum available opportunity for the most EV chargers at the highest level possible Is that correct?
It's just whatever's in the code right now, Commissioner Wright.
And then, as you described before, the right path, or whatever it's called, does provide opportunities for us to incentivize.
Right, so that's part of
Something
the
different.
analysis, that's part of the analysis that we would need to do to see if any of those exceptions under AB 130 could be applied.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes, I mean, I don't think we should, re-adopt. I was hoping we could just let them slide, but if we can't do that.
Not recommended.
I was in favor of letting them stay there too.
So to put no, I don't want to belabor it, but it seems like that second bullet instead should say, confirm staff should not proceed with readoption
Right.
of the codes.
That's a more accurate way to
Yeah.
say it.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had one more question about water.
Potable water,
Potable water, packet page 113.
113, yes.
Um,
K on 113.
Thank you.
Item K.
Appreciate it.
Oh, because you don't have packet page numbers the way we do. I don't mind what ours says at the option for the code also says whichever, or the current, no. Local, residential development shall comply with a local water efficient landscape ordinance or the current water resources, blah, 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 which refers back to what we have in ours now. And I messaged Dr. Carr from the Water District just to see what she thought. And, they don't currently have anything that's more restrictive, but they might want to think about that. So I would love to have that in there also. Maybe instead of just adopting the state, we could add a number 3, whatever's easier, just to give them the power to adopt a more restrictive potable water use ordinance if they want to.
You mean North County Water
North County
adopt
Water.
it? Right, and if they do, that, because they have their own jurisdictional requirements, it would apply. It's not something the city enforces, right?
But here it ties it to the building code, and it wouldn't give that as an option. So I'm not sure. Maybe that's a clarification question for.
I would love for more purple pipe and more landscape watering with purple pipe and toilets
Yeah.
being done with purple pipe, and anything that we can use purple pipe water for being the last connection on the line. So when we have purple pipe in front, it can get connected to a purple pipe meter.
And also encouraging individual development to reuse their water, like from sinks and laundry and things like that is something that they could do, right? It doesn't have to be piped throughout the city. It could just be local.
Yeah.
The difference in the Pacific code and the state code on this one is the bullet point 2, which allows you to do a little areas less than 2,500 square feet can have different requirements. So that's the only difference in those two codes.
And that makes it easier for them, I assume, for a smaller, so I'm not opposed to that. I just don't want to leave out, our local water efficient ordinance if we wanted to have one, which is mentioned specifically in the other.
And I'm sorry, I'm not exactly understanding, but you're saying in number 3, are you suggesting referring to something that is North County Water District's
Or
requirement?
just adding that phrase. I mean, no.
Yes, give me the language.
On the thing above, 1 is the same, and 2 is just an exception for smaller projects to not have to do the complicated WALO ordinance, right? It's just a list of things that they can do. So that's an exception that we have that makes it easier for smaller projects. I'm okay keeping that, I think, but I want to make sure we don't lose complying with the local water efficient landscape ordinance as an option.
I'm not aware of any, anything that's currently proposed through the city for that, and I wonder if it's something that we would look at more comprehensively. Should there be a new water efficient landscape ordinance?
Well, I don't think it would be us doing it. I think it would be the water district.
No, it would not?
I think it would have to be from the city, and typically cities have an MWLO ordinance, and I was just looking through our code to see if we had it, and I couldn't find it. So we'd have to look into this, but
Okay.
Do you mind doing that?
I don't mind doing that.
We'd appreciate it if you would.
Because that might
kinda
be
my job.
something, that might be something we want to do anyway through the CART, right? Just
Yes,
use more water.
for sure.
Just so I'm clear, I understand, so Vice Mayor Bowles is just saying she's fine with 1 and 2, but she'd like to incorporate somehow compliance with a local water efficient landscape ordinance.
Yeah.
If NCCWD has that type of regulation.
Or if it's up to us, if we come up
Right,
with one in
okay.
the future.
Thank you.
Or we can steal it from River City or another water agency.
Okay. Anything on page 114 that we need to revisit? Yep. Okay. Is that it?
That's all I had. Yeah.
Do you have what you need from us?
Yes, I believe I do. Thank you.
Perfect.
And can you just explain next steps? So,
Oh, yes. And I'm sorry, I don't have the date, but we'll come back,
Soon.
Tomorrow's fine.
come back tomorrow.
Soon.
We'll come back sometime in October with the, October, early November, with the research that was requested to get final direction on preparation of an ordinance, and then we'll bring the ordinance for first reading and second reading, I think late November and early December, so that it can be effective January 1st.
great. Thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you all for your
Very good.
patience with us.
Thank you.
That's great.
Appreciate you. All right, council, we need to turn to council communications. Anything to communicate, council?
We have another meeting, so I prefer to finish what we're doing.
Okay, anything urgent anyone wants to share, or from any of our committee meetings that is timely that we need to share?
Fogfest, tell us about Fogfest.
Fogfest is going to be on Saturday and Sunday, and the city will have a great presence there, including the Beautification Advisory Committees participating in the Art Corner portion with Sanchez Art Center. The city has a double-wide or triple-wide booth with all kinds of information from different departments. And the council members are invited to ride in the antique fire truck, as we have done for several of the last few years. Thank you, Mayor Beer, for initiating that. And it will be near, haven't seen the lineup, but we're near the beginning.
And was there like a theme for us? For us?
Like to wear?
For us, yes.
I didn't
It'll be
establish
good to
one.
have something.
I don't, do you have a suggestion?
I mean, I don't know.
I would suggest Western wear.
I was just about to say, Greg would probably say, I think we should all wear cowboy hats.
Or pirate gear. I'll be wearing some of my pirate gear too.
You're wearing.
Or if we all had like Park and Rec shirts.
Oh, Park and Rec.
I mean, you are the Grand Marshal, right?
Does the Grand Marshal have a suggestion? Yes. We should dress like a park.
Or wave.
A wave. What
I
is the
don't-
theme? Waves, something?
Waves of fun.
Waves of fun. So keeping that in mind,
We
Let
have to
us-
be fun.
waves of
Please,
fun.
let's be fun.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay,
Okay.
I'll change my shirt.
okay, good.
Waves of fun. Okay.
Great.
Anything further? No?
I
Well,
want to
oh,
just
Christine,
communicate one
please.
thing.
Yes.
I have something.
I know.
So I had my meeting with the PRC and the unhoused on the coast. And one of the things that I forgot to share when we were doing our 72-hour parking is that the PRC has been trying to talk to all the people that are in the RVs to just kind of understand who they are and what their ties to Pacifica are. Because we're hearing a lot of complaints of people, claiming they're pedophiles and all these things, but, for the most part, these are people from our community, and I think it's really important to say that so that we can try to be a little more kind. So I'm just going to read you the statistics from Anita. So as of August 26th, there were about 26 motorhomes that they believed were occupied by people sleeping in them. They can't peek in and all that, but they surveyed 19 of the 26. 17 of the 19 considered Pacifica their hometown. However, 3 of those shared that they lived in other cities. So hometown might mean different things, right? If you have family here, if you're working here. Yeah, and that they feel safe here. Most, 11 of the 19, have lived in their motorhomes for 1 to 2 years, 5 for 2 to 5, 2 for more than 5 years, and 1 for just 6 months to a year. Most live alone, 13 of the 19, 5 with their partner, and 1 with children under 18. So anyway, just wanted to share that for.
Do you know if that included vehicles in the Lindemar Beach parking lot?
This is including all the RVs.
So
And they
citywide.
count them all, right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, citywide.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Christine. I appreciate that.
Okay, Miss Mary Beer, did you have something?
I just wanted to encourage everyone to download the Commute Star app through commute.org because there's a lot of great things on there and you can track your trips and there's incentives and there's actually trip planners, which is super cool because it shows you if you're biking here, you can go from here to this bus to this train and it's cool. So I highly recommend everybody doing that. And I had a meeting with the bike park guys and so I just want to put a little bug in the ears of our community. They're still looking for support for the bike park, and we're going to be talking about it more, and so I appreciate them and their tenacity because they have been trying for this for a long time, and so if anybody out there knows anybody with a whole bunch of money, let us know, because that would be really great. And thanks for the coastal cleanup, too.
Oh, yeah. That was a great day. There were so many people out and youth a go-go at
So
Lindemar
fun.
Beach. It
So
was
fun.
really great. Yes. All right. There being no further business before the council, we are going to adjourn. However, Councilmember Beer has requested that we adjourn in memory of Nani, and I wondered if you wanted to say some words.
Yeah, absolutely. We lost a shining star in our mental health outreach world. Nani Wilson worked for Asian American Recovery Services for the past 10 years. I've worked with her for the past 20 years, and she was the heart and soul of all of the work that we do. She phrased our work, heart work, and everybody's using it now, and so that came from Nani. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, and the work that we do wouldn't be so rich and wonderful and full of love and purpose. And the reason why we all do the work that we do is because we carry our hearts with us. And that was what Nani represented, still represents. She touched hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in San Mateo County through the Samoan community and all of the PI work that's done everywhere. I am heartbroken, and so are all of my friends at work. And so thank you for letting me talk about Nani. She's beautiful.
Thank you very much for that. All right, council, we are going to adjourn our regular meeting. It is 9:14. I'd like to request that we take a 5-minute break and resume at 9:20 in the closed session. Resume our closed session at 9:20. Thank you.